On this, I'm gonna do the tiling on it with this green. So I did mean to stream again last night, but I ate dinner and I was super tired, so. I am gonna add a little blue. A little bit of blue into this. That'll give us a teal a little bit better to our teal color. This piece should be relatively easy to paint. There isn't much on it, so I should be able to switch up to the next piece relatively quickly. So now I'm just going to grab some of this white, make myself a mid-tone, and go back through and stipple on some shading. Cool. That was LEI. Give Up on YouTube. Nails by Rosalind Higuera. Ross. What up, Nails? Why should I give up on YouTube, LEI? You're gonna have to give a better statement than just give up on YouTube. So, anyways, that's looking pretty good. I feel like I want to go through and do all of these mats or these little grading screen too, so I'm gonna have to mix up a little. What up, Starry Night Sky? Thanks, Rosalind. Nails by Rosalind. Rosalind Cara. Is that like two names stuck in one? Thank you. These are terrain pieces for a game called Necromunda, which This is a tabletop uh, battle war strategy skirmish battle game. What am I making? Necromunda terrain. Scratch build. So this is like a old fan, granny grating, popsicle sticks, old wire, an old antenna from a car. Make it out of garbage. You use little 28mm miniatures, and you and a couple of friends make gangs and fight over. This is another one that I've already painted, sitting here in the background. Smallest of the 9 pieces for this board. So, if that gives you an idea of how intricate some of them are, you can see by the one behind there. Good morning, everyone, by the way. I know that it might be bright and early where you are. It's not too bright out there, but it's earlier. So I'm just going to go through and try to hit this top layer now, all with the green as well. This is going to be a little bit slower because it's a lot more detailed little pieces. But the great thing about it is the blue and the green, they really blend well together. So if I get a little green on the blue, it's not going to be a big deal. So I'm just going through here, and then I'm going to paint all this grating and flooring up on the top, the same as the flooring on the ground. Little continuity things there really do help when you're building terrain. And there will be a bunch of other brown washes and black washes on this, so I don't have to try to get everything perfect. I just want to give it a little bit of a base coat. In fact, if I use some really watery paint and just, the pigment is so high in these paints, which, by the way, I'm using these interesting water-based oils, or water mixable oil color. So it has a very similar effect to oils. It's very high pigmented, so a little bit does go a long way. But it really matters what consistency you're using it in, because you can thicken it up and keep it thick and just smear it on there, and you'll use a lot of paint that way. But if you really water it down, the pigment is really strong, so it has a tendency to color whatever you've painted even if it's really watered down. Okay, we're just gonna turn it to this other side, crank this out real quick, and then we're gonna shade it up. And the shading will be just as easy as how I did the flooring just a minute ago with the shading. So the same thing with the shading. I'm just going to try to take some of this white, lighten this up a little bit. Oh, before I even start doing that, I want to look at it from the side that I'm going to be shading it from, which I'm going to say the light is coming from that side. That's where I did all the shading before. So I just put a little blob of white up here. A little white, help it mix a little better. And that is actually like a little bit too bright. So I'll go down here and I'll try to awaken some of this other green and make a little bit more of a mid-tone there. That's a little better. And then we're just gonna stipple it on from the direction that the light is coming. So if I'm the light source from this angle, I'm gonna highlight everything from this side. So that was a mid-tone highlight, so now I'm going to go with an even lighter tone highlight and just strictly stay towards this edge. Same on this side. Excuse me. Sometimes the Underhive is quite dusty. Every time. So, and as you can see, I'm not being all super strict about this. I'm just trying to get myself a little bit of shading going on with that. And then we're going to move on to the next bit. The kind of shading I did, pretty simple, pretty easy. I mean, actually, super easy. I don't know if you can see right here, but I did do some shading in there, and it kind of just blended itself back in, which will happen if you have a very watered down oil paint or very viscous oil paint. They'll blend together just kind of naturally. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a little bit more shading in just on this corner, really. Trying to give the idea that there's a light source over here. So you see how I've really brighten it up in this corner. And we're slowly moving that lighter paint that way. That'll give it the kind of got a glare on the screen, so I'll kind of try to show you here. See how I've shaded that, and then I basically stopped at that corner. This side will look lighter, give it more of the impression that I'm going for, since I've highlighted everything from basically from this corner that way. It's just an easy way to do, honestly, OSL, which is like painting it so that it looks like light is shining in a certain direction. So I think the next is maybe a yellow. That is green. Trying to get the blue out of this brush. I might actually have to use some paint thinner on this, because they say they're water soluble, but they're, I don't know. It doesn't come out of my paintbrush very well. That paintbrush is supposed to be white. Well, we will do our best, huh? So I'm going to get my palette. They have 3 or 4 palettes going, a blue, green, an orange, yellow, and a red. But the only reason I do that for this is because I like to make the paint really liquidy. So it's nice to have like a tray as opposed to a flat. A flat palette like you might normally use. I'm going to try to make like an orangey brown right here. Mix that up real good, get it to the right consistency I want. What up, Eric? The colors I'm using, so I'll show you this thing again. This is just the white. It's Winsor & Newton, so it's really high quality, but it's water soluble oil paints. So I'm kind of doing an experiment with them. The colors are very saturated, very bright. I like them. Pigment is very heavy. It really colors stuff, which again I like. But it had, like oils, it takes a long time to dry. It has its other issues, but I'm doing a limited palette. I'll show you right now. Just a little plastic holder thing. I got a yellow, I got a blue, I got a white, I got a red, I got a green, and I got a yellow ochre. So I don't have black. So you do have to remember that this whole project is being painted with any black, which means that I'll have to go heavier on the oil washes later, the dark oil washes, but that will allow me to just add even more of that sort of atmospheric effect that oil washes give it. That real grimy, worn down feel. And on top of this super, saturated, bright, I mean, it's not so bright, but very saturated colors, I think it'll look cool. That's what I'm hoping, at least. So I'm gonna paint this fan. It's gonna be a pain in the butt. Nah, this will be easy. I wish it wasn't raining hella right now outside. I would be priming the rest of the pieces. I only primed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so I have 4 more to prime. Ah, the dry time. That's what you're. So I started this one back here yesterday, and I did set it in front of the dehumidifier for a little while, and I started with this red color here. So I'm gonna go right now. Oh, in fact, here we'll do a better test. Blank piece of paper towel. I'm just gonna wipe right here and see how much comes off. There, you can't see it, but it is still wet. I pulled a little bit of pigment off with that. I did press kind of hard. So it has been 24 hours. No, that's a lie. Maybe? It has been 24 hours for that first coat, around about 24 hours. So it's probably like a 2-day dry time. It's not, and it might even take longer than that. It might like have a set time where it's like a week before it's actually fully dry. Now, so on that note, I would not suggest using these if you're in a time crunch, in the sense that like, oh, tomorrow, in 20 minutes we got to play with these. You might be able to hit them up with like a blow dryer or something and speed that drying time up a little bit. I did set it in front of the dehumidifier, so it definitely had like a nice blast of dry air trying to dry it up. I am in a very moist area too, so I don't know if that changes the... It probably does. It changes how everything else dries, so... So that is definitely a thing. The dry time is definitely a factor when using these. That issue can be negated though if you're painting more than one piece, because you can work on this piece, move it over, start working on another piece. If you got 9 pieces to go and you're painting with this, by the time you get back to the first one, whatever you were working on is dry enough, right? Like, so this, I would say, is dry enough. Like it's not coming off of my thumb just by touching it. But I don't doubt that if I, smeared around on everything on there, then it will, something on there will be still wet enough to to stain your hand or mess with your model. So, you know, you don't want to put your nice painted models on something that's going to cover it with paint. But I will most definitely clear coat these two before I might even do it before I oil wash them, because I don't know what that astringent will do, the like white spirits, what will do it will do to this paint. So that might be something worth experimenting, actually, because if I put the oil wash on top of it and it just wakes it back up and makes it run everywhere. And I do have like black oil paint, and I've thought about just trying to use that together, but I would need mineral spirits or something. Trying to get these fan blades painted up. That'll probably be about the only thing that's really orange on here. Good enough. Good enough. I can snag this leftover white right here. And I'm going to lighten some of this up, get myself a mid-tone again. I hope so. I really hope that kind of contrast and maybe even building up with different variations of color oil washes. So not just, what I'm saying is not just doing black, but like you know, getting some browns in there, getting some grays in there, doing that type of thing, I feel like will definitely benefit it, especially with like these squares and this flat wall here, down here. I'd love to see like a lot of grimy looking buildup. Right, I tried to get this sort of like washed out effect on the flat pieces as opposed to this kind of stippled shading that I'm doing. So the light's coming from here, and I'm just gonna shade it like that. But easy peasy. So I do want to do something with these pipes. I don't necessarily, and wires. I don't necessarily think just doing in black is going to be as cool. I'd like to do something with that as well. Don't really know what color. Yes, I think so, and I think the variation between the stippled shading and the washes shading itself and how it wants to run into the cracks. It also leaves like a grainy sort of pigment on there. I feel like those two contrasts will be really cool. Trying to get the paint They're like water mixable, but they're not really like water cleanable. Doesn't really come out of the brush very easily. So I say we'll mess with some green, some like bright green. So I'm gonna put a blob of yellow. And the blob of the green and see what we come up with. Quite a bright green. Nice kind of sap green going on there. Let's put those two mix. Gonna do the phthalo green on the back side of this weird tube thing, and then that kind of like sap green I made up in front. Should be able to get a pretty good highlighting. Although that phthalo green is just taking over the sap green or the yellow, so we're gonna have to do a little bit more of that. But that's fine. That's fine. Do another little blob of yellow. In fact, I might tilt y'all down a little bit. Sorry for the shaky, so you can see my palette a little bit better. There you go. So now, I'm not even gonna mix this yellow with anything. It's just gonna be picking up the green off of my brush. And I'm gonna blend me in a little bit of a bright spot over here. Add a little color detail to that. You can't see it because that antenna's in the way, but basically missed the whole side of it. So fix that right now. Cool. that just leaves me with some piping to do. I might actually just switch it back to that yellow I was using earlier, or this burnt ochre, or whatever you want to call this brown color right here. Can't make this a little bit brighter yellow. Fortunately, I got so much blue and green worked in here that everything's turning slightly green, and that's actually fine. I don't mind it when the colors kind of start to mix together, especially when you're doing terrain, and honestly, when you're painting minis too. If you make your brown, like this total super secret trick, but if you make your brown out of the colors that you've already painted on there, then the brown will look more natural than if you use just another brown out of a bottle or a can or whatever, a pre-mixed brown. If you mix your own out of the colors that were already here, so if I take this yellow, this green, and the red that I have, and I make brown, that brown is going to be more complementary to those colors. And this is another slightly time-consuming part of it, where you're doing the 1,000 tubes and pipes, and you go, why did I put all of this crap in here? And you go, oh yeah, because it looked really cool. I gotta paint it. And I found that when I'm doing detail painting, if I talk, my brush shakes even more. So I might be having even weirder pauses than I normally do, because I'll be concentrating for a second, trying not to splash this yellow everywhere. So far this is coming out looking nice. I don't the contrast of colors on that screen is a little bit nicer here. They don't blend quite as much. I think the camera is doing a little bit of a favor there, at least at this time it is. But usually I've noticed that it like this shading on this tile over here, that's super apparent. Like I can see the brush strokes and everything, but it doesn't show the drasticness on the camera, so it kind of blends things together a little bit better. So the contrast in real life is a little bit more than you're seeing on that camera, I guess is what I'm saying. Trying to get all these dang pipes and tubes and wires and hoses. Again, I will be using oil washes to clean most of this up. So that won't really be it. Messing up too much isn't a huge deal. Especially too because this yellow will yellow is like one of the most easy colors to overwhelm with another color. So if I accidentally got this all over the blue, for example, I could probably just get a little bit more blue and work that in on top of the yellow, and the yellow would disappear. Same with the green. It's also good to kind of flip it around and look at it from different angles. Because when you have something as twisted as like piping and tubing, it's really easy to miss an angle on it. But if you flip your piece around, ooh, and if you stick your finger right in the paint too, so that's blending. Just blending it. Flip the piece around, you can see where any spots you missed. It's good. It's good. Oh, there's like a pipe hiding back here. It's a really hard area to get down into paint. So I'll just leave it alone. I'll just dump a bunch of extra wash down there. So then, all it really looks like is we need some brown. So I'm gonna just do my brown making technique right now. So my brown technique really is just mixing all the extra paint together. Helps me use up that extra paint off of the palettes. What a great color. And if I'm, so for example, this is coming out really green, right? Like, if I'm trying to get a brown out of here, I'm not really getting a brown, I'm getting a green. Gray green, if you will. Which means I need more red. Doesn't look like any other paint in here is alive and wanting to be awoken, so got the red in there. And just to tone it to the other one a little bit, I'm going to put a little bit more of this ochre in it. And you can probably see like how there's like, it looks really green, but that is, I think, particles of dried pigment floating in the top of this green brown liquid. So we'll see how it reacts when it dries, if it leaves like green particles everywhere. If it does, well, cool. We figured out that that's what happens. If it doesn't, cool, then it worked normally. We either figured out how to make a cool effect or we didn't. Still appear to need a little bit more ochre. Okay, let's put some of this on. Still a little green to my liking. Definitely like it a little bit more brown. I don't mind the slight green tint, that's fine. I just wanted to match the other piece I already did a little bit. And this is far too green. And that was way too much red. But that's okay. It will contrast nicely with all the green that is on here. So now I'm just going through, I'm going to start at the top. And I'm going to start filling in any spot that has been left, that I left white. I left it white because it has texture all over it, and the texture I imagine as, dirt that's been blowing around. So Also, these paints are a lot brighter when they're first painted. They do dull down a bit as they dry. So the contrasts you're seeing aren't going to be quite as bright when everything's said and done, but that's fine. I'm going to tone it down with oil wash anyways, so kind of don't care if this gets everywhere a little bit, because I need it to look dirty and saturated as well. Pretty good, looking pretty good. Cool. I think we're pretty much done with that. So really all I'm going to do is leave a couple little spots white so that they'll kind of turn gray when I oil wash them. That includes the antenna and these wires. Other than that, this one's pretty much done. Just needs to dry hella, so I'll probably end up starting on the next one. Hey, thanks, bud. I am getting close to my hour point, which I usually like to stop my videos. I've been trying to do longer ones during the middle of the day. So at about noon, New York time, I will be doing another one, and I'll try to do it for 2 hours. And with that, we'll start on a whole other piece. So I think I'm going to leave it here now as opposed to start another piece in the middle. But I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me, checking out my channel, all that stuff. If you ever have any questions or anything, feel free to message me on my channel. Hit me up on my Instagram. I love to talk terrain. I love to talk games. So definitely hit me up there. This has been really fun building and painting these live. The input has been super awesome. So I dig that. But I'm gonna bounce. I'm gonna go feed the animals and feed myself. So it's cool chilling with you. Guys have a good one. Peace.